Bula bula.
Bon dia, and welcome to episode 32, where our guest is the owner and creative director of the proudly Mozambican luxury menswear brand Xipixi. He is a mellow cat with great energy and a heart of gold. We wanted to record with him for a while, and it was surely worth the wait. So, please welcome to Kubhula, our dear friend, António Macheve Jr.
Eu não roubei coisa de ninguém, desculpa lá muito.
Há muito boato, há muita poeira nisto tudo, mas muita poeira. Oh, meu irmão, me deixe em paz, por favor.
Ficar em casa, ficar em casa. O governo disse, todas as pessoas têm que ficar em quarentena.
Não se aprende o leão, o comportamento do leão online. Não se aprende o comportamento de crocodilo online.
Futebol, professor.
É pecado.
Espera, é errado esse tipo de futebol.
É pecado esse futebol.
Assistir Messi.
Jogar assim como jogar. Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo e todos os seus adeptos vão parar no inferno.
Por quê?
E é Cacó Felipe o seu livro que vai julgar.
Tony Town.
Yeah, for
Mr.
sure,
Xipixi,
man.
the
For
one and
sure.
only.
For sure,
Thank
man.
you for what is it? Is it gracing us with your presence, or is it blessing us with your presence? I never know.
I think both
It's
work.
both work. Yeah, but thank you for that.
No, thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it. It's a pleasure to be here, man. You guys have yourselves a great platform. It's beautiful to to hear your interviews, and it's also really nice to see young Mozambican content creators come together and networking through the space that you guys created. I've listened to a lot of your episodes and I've learned so much, and I've heard so many people that I now want to connect with, based on this platform that you've created. So, don't take this lightly. It's beautiful what y'all doing over here, man.
Wow.
That's an amazing compliment. Thank you, Marcio.
I don't even have a comeback to that.
Yeah, wow. Thank you, and thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening to us doing this. We it's kind of DIY here. Do it yourself / learning as we going. And like you said, offline, like we're not journalists or anything. Here it's just Kubhula is just about talking like we wouldn't anywhere. So yeah.
Yeah. E aprender, meu. E aprendemos muito.
Yeah.
Aprendemos muito. É isso. Quando temos cria uma oportunidade de nós nos sentarmos aqui across someone que vai contar experiências e iniciativas que essa pessoa está a ter, and nós podemos sugar essa sabedoria toda. And that's the best we can do now. E vamos aprendendo a falar, vamos aprendendo a ouvir, como tu estavas a comentar há bocado, Xipixi. É tipo, that's the best thing. Porque é verdade que fazemos para os outros, queremos que os outros ouçam também, mas também fazemos muito para nós. We can't say that we do it só para os outros, não. Fazemos muito para nós. E é o que keep us going, não é?
Yeah. And the thing is, you, like, by the virtue of doing it for yourself, maybe selfishly or whatever the reason may be, you end up doing it for others, and you do it in a very genuine way. And like, it's just like my brand, the clothes that I make. Initially, when I started, it's just clothes that I wanted for myself and I couldn't find in the market. You know what I mean? And at the same time, I was broke, I was out of a job. And I think that's a topic we need to talk about, the idea of, young Mozambicans who live overseas, go to school, get their bachelor's degree, get their master's degree, or even PhDs, and come back home and find it really difficult to get a placement professionally, right? And so that was my situation when I came back from the US. And look, I applied for 27 job positions, didn't get any calls except for one. Went to interviews twice, but then didn't get called back. And I was broke. You know what I mean? Seeing my friends like evolving, um, going to work. You know, like
Wearing suits.
wearing suits, damn, wearing suits, you know, going out for drinks, chilling, and I'm there sucking my thumb. You know what I'm saying? And so I was like, man, I got to make a plan. And it really started with just like this little passion of like, I don't have money myself to go out and buy expensive clothes, so let me make clothes of my own. And that's how the whole idea started. So this is just to come back to your idea of like having this platform for you to learn, but by the same token, now you have millions of people learning from this platform that you created. You know what I mean? And that's what happened to me also, gradually. Obviously that, you know, I had to now start building a business and the whole nine that, you know, we can talk about more thoroughly. But the idea is that is you know, doing something that you like, you know, to get a good feeling. And then if you vibe well enough, if you do it well enough, you will attract other people by the same token, and it moves on, man. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. And you're talking about your clothing. So to whoever doesn't know, Tony Macheve, he is the proud owner of a menswear, gentleman.
Yeah, menswear. Luxury menswear.
Luxury
you better
menswear.
put the luxury in there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And it is luxury. It is luxury.
It's awesome.
And I'm gonna plug the name is called Xipixi, and we're gonna talk about it
sure.
during this episode. But Tony also brought us some lovely gifts. So again, thank you. Some lovely bow ties that we have here, and
Pleasure,
we'll put a
from the
picture in
heart.
the description for people who want to look at the bow ties and so forth. But like you were saying, like how did tell us a bit about your history? Like born in Mozambique,
Right.
studied at an international school,
Right.
and then college in the States,
Right.
and just how old were you? How was that sort of and here in Moz, sort of international school, and then sort of going to the States? How was that for you? How was your experience sort of being there? What did you learn before we even get to the?
Yeah, man, that's a fully loaded question. You know, you didn't come with a revolver. You came with a bazooka on me. So, you know, I'm born in Moz, Hospital Geral de Xamanculo. Xamanculo, what's up? You know? Yeah, let's go. You know? And so my father is still a diplomat. And then so when I was 4 years old, you know, he was a junior diplomat and he got sent to France for his first mission overseas. So we lived in France for about 6 years. So those were my first initial formative years. And then came back to Moz when I was close to 10 years old. And then lived in Moz 8 years before I went to the US. So when I was in Moz, I first, just to continue my education in French, I came to the French School of Maputo. So I was there till about 2002. And afterwards, my pops realized that we might move to the US. So he made that switch to the International School of Maputo so we could learn English. So we were learning English at the French school, but it wasn't the same thing. Like, you know, my pronunciation was really bad. I could barely put a sentence together, you know. It's just that basic English that you learn in a school that doesn't speak English as the main language, right? So after that, well, obviously, I'm fast forwarding the whole story, but you know, from 10 to about 18, 17 years old, I mean, these are strong years for you, you know. So I was shaped by a lot of things, and I've had the opportunity a lot of times to be involved in many little projects, whether it was a church, school with friends, where I automatically somehow, because of my commitment to whatever we did, became a leader of the group, right? So I started having like my sort of preliminary experiences of leadership before my real formative years as an adult, right? And with that came some entrepreneurship, just to give you some context into how I then ended up becoming an an entrepreneur by accident. I used to be a DJ, and I remember being in Maputo, charging 2,500 meticais for a gig from me, right? For a party, whatever it is. And I used to play at schools, like private parties and things like that. And so I would use 1,000 meticais to rent the whole equipment, use 500 to rent the car that would transport the equipment from the spot to the party place, and then from the party place back to the spot, and then I'll make 1,000 myself, right? So those were my first experiences juggling with entrepreneurship, But I didn't realize that, I was making a little money, putting it where I needed to, saving some to buy the things that I want. So I learned little lessons about, getting money, saving money, and things of that nature. And so when I moved to the US, that passion continued. Obviously, in the first years in the US, it was very difficult for me. The adjustment, the accent, the people, the culture, obviously.
Where in the US, sorry?
In New York. So I lived in New York, in Queens, to be specific. Queens, where you at? The land of LL Cool J, 50 Cent,
Nas.
Ja Rule, Nas, of course. Can't forget Nas. That's my number one rapper of all time. So yeah, beautiful thing. So New York is a melting pot. It's a city where you find every culture. You walk around in the streets of Manhattan, you might as well hear someone speaking Shangana, Bitonga, Spanish, you name it, Mandarin, Farsi, whatever language, it just circulates.
Melting pot.
It really is a melting pot. And Queens is a small New York in itself because it's separated in so many neighborhoods that actually carry names associated with locations, geographic locations. So you have Flushing, which is an area where you have Chinatown. You have Southside Jamaica, Queens, which is where you find a lot of Jamaicans or Caribbean people, and you can eat a lot of that food. You have Little Italy, you have Little Brazil, so it's really a melting pot, and you have all those cultures. So it was great for me to be there. And then as a university student, I was doing political science with a concentration in international politics. I learned to engage a lot, to network. Then I continued my DJ thing, and I rose up to the second biggest club in New York, which is Club Pasha from Ibiza. Just over time, networking, meeting people, DJing at basement parties, then going from basement parties to bars and lounges, from bars and lounges to clubs, from clubs to big clubs, and, and the whole nine. And again, I found myself in those situations where I was making some money, saving some, and buying equipment, buying more gear, buying the lights, So I've gotten used to that over time since pretty much my childhood, of finding ways to get money, save money, and so on and so forth. And I also learned a lot of that in that culture because at some point in Queens, I was a activity assistant at a library. So that means you're a tutor, right? For after-school programs for kids who get out of school, have nowhere else to go. I actually started doing that in the ghetto in Lafayette City, where Nora is from. Nori Capone and the whole crew. And so it was like that whole idea of bringing, kids who after school didn't have their parents to look after them, and if they stayed out in the streets, they'll get like literally bullied by the police. So the safe haven for them was the library. So I was their tutor to continue with the work that they did at school, but I didn't want to make that an extension of school. So I tried to make it fun, added some hip hop to it. I put a studio at the library for them to record because I had a studio at home as well that I put together. I used to produce music. So one thing that I also learned at the library, again, going back to the whole idea of making some money and saving, is that Americans teach children at a very young age to make money, to make money and to use their money appropriately, And I was working with kids between the ages of 6 and 18 years old and literally seeing books for second graders telling them what they can do to make money. You know what I mean? So you in second grade, you're told, what can you do to make money? Oh, I can mow my neighbor's lawn. You know what I mean?
Wow.
I can babysit. I have an old neighbor. I could go to her kitchen and help her wash her dishes. And she'll give me $1. I can sell some newspapers. I'll get $1. And I save all those dollars and do something bigger. You know what I mean? And so unintentionally, all of those lessons sort of stuck with me. And they helped me in the later stage of my life where I became an entrepreneur by accident, which is the story that I was telling initially, that I came to Maputo. So I had a degree in political science with a concentration in international politics. My first dream was to be a diplomat like my dad. But over time, I realized that's not really the route I want. I don't want to work for the government, Yeah. So, and I realized that, talking to my dad, seeing the flow of his work, and I felt like it wasn't something for me. So for me, it's like I'm going to come and work for an international organization, like a UN specialized agency or something, and just contribute for development.
Quantos anos tinhas?
23.
23.
Yeah.
O que é que fez uma pessoa de 23 anos a viver em New York, DJing, fun, that life, voltar para Moçambique?
Bro, that's the question I got from everybody when I was leaving New York. And then from everybody when I got here too, it was like, what the hell are you doing here? Yeah, man. Oh, man, it's crazy. Yeah, and the crazy thing is, I was doing all those things and I built great relationships and great networks. And there was definitely a lot of possibilities. But one thing that happened to me when I was in New York, I built a very strong sense of patriotism towards Mozambique, It's like, bro, like these guys have it all. Everything's set up, they have the whole structure well put together. And at home, like everything is there waiting to be developed somehow. You know what I mean? And that's one of the reasons that why I wanted to work in development, is because I believe that I can come to New York, learn all these things, and go back home and implement them. You know what I mean? So for me, that was my state of mind. But I mean, I came back home thinking, they need people like me, and got this big fart on my face,
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, now how do you readjust to this thing, And I mean, I did a lot of soul searching. Actually, during that time, I went through depression, and it wasn't easy at all for me. But then my way out of it was the brand, When I just sat down, I was like, here I am. I have a lot of time on my hands. I really have nothing to do formally. I have a fresh young mind. Why not invent something? So I started making clothes, playing around with clothes. And that was the birth of Xipixi pretty much when I came back. It was really born out of frustration. That's why I always tell people, in every crisis lies a seed of opportunity, I've learned to use my crises as an opportunity to do better or to do something new or to innovate much more. And that's actually what's happening with me now during this COVID crisis. Yeah.
Tell me a bit more about the $3 story.
Oh, the $3 story.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, oh man. So here I am. I'm broke, right? So, I mean, at the time, I don't know how much money I had with me, but it was very little, you know. And I was still living with my parents, so they'll spare me some, like, okay, you know, yeah, take care of yourself, you know. So I found myself with 200 meticais, which is pretty much the equivalent of $3, 45 rands. And I went to the local market in Matola, and I got me a capulana, right? And I gave it to one of those alfaiates that stay at the markets, to just make me a pair of shorts, right? And so I remember buying the capulana for what, about 75 to 100 or something, and then got it made for like 100 or 125. So at the end, I used those 200 to make that pair of shorts, right? And I go out. This guy looks at me and is like, "Yo, man," it was close to New Year's. He's like, "Yo, man, I really like your shorts. You know, they look really good." I was like, "Yo, you like them?" I was like, he was like, yeah, I really like them. I was like, "Yeah, it's my brand." I had no brand at that time, man. I didn't know anything about branding. I didn't have tags. I didn't have labels. And I knew nothing. I had never done any research on brands. I was just a regular consumer, never a producer. So he was like, "Yeah, man, I want them." I was like, "Yeah, for sure. It's my brand. You know, I'll make it happen for you." And he was like, "Yo, so how much does it cost?" I'm like, I gotta think on my feet right now, man. I gotta make some profit out of this, whatever. So I just threw a number. It was like 800, right? And it was like, "Cool, I got you." And so he just took out his wallet, gave me the money. So I went back, and he gave me the specs of what he wanted. I bought another capulana. I spent that very same money and make that pair of shorts for him. He wore it, told somebody else about it. That person liked it. With that money, I made 3 pairs. More money came in, 6 pairs, 12 pairs of shorts, 24, 48, and then making bow ties. And I mean, I'm bad with math, so I'm not going to continue with the numbers. But you get the point, right? It started very slowly. And then the more I made money, I was conscious to save some more on the side just for a rainy day and save to keep investing. And yeah, man, so that's the $3 story. That's the 200 meticais, and that's how the brand started. And that's how it's been managed since then. And now we've sold in 12 countries around the world. I mean, we have commercial presence in Maputo, in different stores, in Joburg, in Cape Town. We're doing fashion weeks, but it really started. The genesis was $3, 200 meticais, and I've never gotten any funding in between. That's how it's grown, very organically.
Oh, that's amazing. 2012.
2012, yeah, for sure.
Amazing. That's actually a great lesson for anyone. That's also a great lesson for us, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. And back to Africa.
Y'all want to go to Africa?
Back to Africa. And obviously the challenges, as a lot of us know here in our beloved country that is Mozambique. You were saying there that you applied for like 27 jobs. Probably only got, was it one?
Yeah,
right?
one call. Yeah,
one call, and all of that. And that hasn't changed. We both have mutual friends, common friends that in the job market and are looking. We all do, that are in the job market and looking for those opportunities and so forth. What. Yes. So you started your brand Xipixi and from an opportunity, right, as well. what, you know, you were talking about like also going through a hard time, depression. Was that being here in Mozambique, or was that was being here in Mozambique?
Yeah, for sure.
Sort of. My question to you is, what are a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs, talk about having money. Not only entrepreneurs but people in general. Like, okay, I'm in this job right now, but I have this idea to do this fashion brand. I'm in this job right now, but I'm a rapper. Like I went and sang.
Let's get it.
I went and sang last week at one of the bars, whatever. Got a great response and all of that. My question that I'm getting to is about that jump. That jump of, all right, now I'm taking this seriously. I'm now like gonna, whatever investment I get or whatever money I get, I'm gonna save X amount to grow this thing. How was that for you? Like, what was your, you selling those those shorts to that one, your first customer? It's basically your first customer, right?
Customer. Yeah.
Selling to that first customer and going, all right.
Casimiro, thank you, bro.
He's got a name. Yeah, there you go, Casimiro. Shout out to Casimiro, man. Cha-ching. Yes.
He probably doesn't know this too, man.
Starting from that first customer, what were some of the challenges, or the not necessarily challenges, but like, anyone at that position, and you kind of feel like you're down in the barrel and you're looking up, and it's like this, probably like this sort of like narrow sort of like vision all the way to the light that's all the way there at the top, and it's like, I've got to climb all the way there, right? Fear is a thing that all entrepreneurs have, people in general. For me, I've known you for a while, and I know that you're very resilient. Like, but I'm sure you had challenges, and probably, did you actually have a point where you were like, nah, man, like, what am I doing?
Yeah, man, you get a lot of those. You do. Just being frank, But the exciting thing, though, is this light that you spoke of. You might be down, but you have a light at the end. And first and foremost, it's very important that you have a why, a sense of purpose with whatever business affairs you're conducting. You know what I mean? A lot of people do it because their friends are doing it, because it's in vogue, it's the cool thing. There's a Fever app right now. Everybody wants to make an app. But like, how does that resonate with you? You know what I mean? I think that's the first and very most important question you need to ask yourself. Because when it gets hard, because you're gonna have to do that for a sustained period, bro. So when it gets hard, for you to be able to struggle through the pain, something has to give you fuel, which is that passion, So for me, once I started the brand, I started having like these like very big and very ambitious ideas now, because it didn't all start as like luxury menswear, nothing. It was just Capulana, whatever I was finding. I hadn't done any research or anything, and just made pieces of clothing for people to wear and get some money, But the thing is, over time, now I'm starting to think like, yo, I learned so much in the US, and I've been in so many circles that speak of excellence, and so many circles also where I've learned that it's very possible for you to build a global brand, right? And then I started having these ideas of, all right, I'm based in Mozambique. Then I moved to South Africa. That's another story. I moved to Cape Town for 7 years. But now I'm here locked in my room with these ideas of this kid who lived in the US, lived in Paris, lived a long time in Mozambique, and is now about to move to Cape Town, why don't I use all of those experiences and communicate that through a brand, you know? But those experiences allow me to have an international flair to my brand, international outlook, you know, with all the lessons I learned, whether intentionally or unintentionally. So with those ideas now comes the whole idea of like, I want to build the best menswear brand in the world coming out of Africa, you know? Um, if this is not happening yet, I want to be at the forefront of that movement, you know? So that became the why, you know? So that fueled a lot of my work after that, you know? And so, again, it's crazy, right? You started with 200 minticage, $3. How can you think of building something, you know, that giant, you know, of such an international scale? And imagine the 3, 4, 5 people I told this about how they looked at me, right? It's like, this guy's crazy. What do you mean? Like, bro, senta aqui na cidade da Matola, pensa que os gajos desenvolveram uma marca internacional com os teus 200 meticais, you know? That's how people looked at me. And I was like, you know, I better protect my vision, my ideas, so that I can focus. But to answer to your question first is the why. And for me, the why became that light at the end, which is a very, you know, that's a goal with a far reach, which is good because you'll have a lot of checkpoints, but like, man, this is too hard, man. I can't do this. But look, you're not yet in that echelon of the top menswear brand in the world. So you can't stop. You know what I mean? So that became my why. And I'm always driven by that, right? And I'm driven even more and more now with the emergence of this whole Black excellence, African excellence, you know, a lot of great content coming out of Africa into the world and the world being excited about it. And I want Mozambique, my country, to be at the forefront or at least as a part of this conversation, right? I want us to be there, you know? And we got great talent here in Mozambique, so why can't we do it, you know? And yeah, going to the challenges, a lot of people say, yeah, because we don't have funding, we don't have government structure, we don't have, you know, the right means to build businesses. But I mean, I argue that for me, everything was born out of a crisis all the time, you know? So it's like, dude, like, even if you have 50 meticais in your pocket, you can flip that somehow and turn into a 75. You know what I mean? And again, that's me also growing up listening to Jay-Z, listening to Nas, a lot of, you know, hustler rappers, you know, showing me that you can literally turn a 5 into a 10 into a 20, you know? And I've heard one of y'all episodes where you spoke about the idea of saving in Mozambique, where you have people who only make 4,000 meticais a month. And I mean, that's awful. First of all, that's awful. You can't live. I can't imagine myself living, you know, with that income in this country, considering the conditions, you know, that we in, and you know, and I mean pricing and everything else. But if you're making 4,000 meticais, mind you that you're always going to spend some money on futile things, on things that are mundane somehow. Like, let's say you spend 5 meticais buying gum or mint, you know? You could choose to like save that 5, that 10. And guess what? If you save that 5 for 10 months, you have a 50. Did you have that 50 before? No, you didn't. You know what I mean? And then if you buy, you know, a couple oranges or apples with that 50, you know, and flip those oranges or apples, you turn that 50 into 100 in less time. You know what I mean? And you can do that progressively, you know? And so for me, this is my answer to everyone who feels like funding is a handicap. Yes, it is a handicap. Yes, but we can't look at that as the main problem. The main problem is what we want to solve in society. And for me, it became a deficit of like high quality brands coming from Mozambique in the international market. That sense of pride, that we need to have as Mozambicans in the content that we produce, the things that we create, and a lot of things along those lines. You know what I mean? So if you're fueled by that, like money over time, if you really hustle and bustle, you can make some money. You can make it happen. It gets difficult. There were times when I wanted to expand because now all of a sudden we have a lot of attention, and I realized that damn, I created all this buzz. Like Xipixi now in Hollywood in 2015 at the Emmys, and I mean, if Jay-Z's like, I want 100,000 bow ties right now, I can't give him that, you know. So how is that happening? You know what I mean? So that's when the fear factor kicked in, and I started knocking doors. And I didn't look, listen to this carefully. And I think this is a very important message for young Mozambican entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs in general. I didn't look for sponsorships. People here tend to try to rely a lot on sponsorships. Obviously, you have brands here that want to sort of leverage someone's fame or someone's success or a certain brand's reach, right? To be able to elevate their reach as well. So they do partnerships and they can sponsor an event or two or whatever. But thinking that you're gonna survive as a business on sponsorships, I don't recommend that. That doesn't really work. It's not sustainable. So please, my Moz friends, brothers and sisters, yes, it hurts to hear a no from a bank, to hear a no from a company, but uma empresa nunca vai viver de patrocínios. It's impossible. You're not going to survive.
Same with NGOs.
If you want to live for a long time, for a long period, and you want to grow, so you need to build a structure for sustainability. So, obviously, time passed. So Xipixi was 3 years old at the time, and I created this buzz. I was invited to go showcase in the UK, just based off internet marketing at the time. And I realized that now I gotta develop a collection. So I need to inform myself on how fashion collections are put together and so on and so forth. As a matter of fact, that was 2014. And so in 2015 is when we created a lot of buzz. And I had to run out and look for funding. And that funding I looked either through grants that could be provided for businesses. So there's a lot of like incubator programs for African entrepreneurs. Well, didn't get any of them, but also look for investors, angel investors, people who you sit down, you show them your books. Look, this is how much we've sold. This is how much stock we have. This is the potential that we think the brand has. If we have your support, like if you put X amount, we believe that in 3 years we can multiply this amount by 5. You know what I mean? And if you get 30%, of that times 5, or the profit within that times 5, then here's the money that you get, right? So understand business as a transaction, not as in like it's a one way where the bank gives me money or this company gives me money and I make some money and then I go back and ask for them again, or I wait for the government. Yes, sure. I mean, we have countries that are much more developed than us and have a structure. Great for them. But again, creativity, ingenuity comes from deprivation. When you have less, you're more creative. Like, imagine a 5-year-old kid in Queens, New York. Like, if he wants a car, he says, "Daddy, can you buy me a car at the local market?" And Pops gets him a car. But a 5-year-old kid in Albazin, in Shkelen, in Hulen, Pops is getting that 4,000. You can't buy him a car. So what is that kid gonna do? He's gonna put some wires together. You know what I mean? Put some elastic bands. Get Coke, Fanta, Sprite cans. make some ties out of that, and he made himself a car. So just we need to understand that deprivation actually fosters creativity and ingenuity. And I think that's the mindset that I think we need to have when we want to go for funding, or when we can't get funding. We just need to be creative. Like, get an extra job. Like, use a trade that you have. I speak French, English, Portuguese. At some point, I started doing translations to get some money on the side to be able to invest in my business. You know, and I mean, these are all skills. These are skills that I happen to have, but everyone somehow has something that's very unique about them. And I mean, I learned that a lot in America. You have guys literally. There's this cowboy in Times Square that just walks around in an underwear with a guitar. That's his job all day, bro. And like they give him tips, like $1, $2, $5, whatever. At the end of the day, he probably has $150 from the tourists that swing by Times Square. You know what I mean? So that's just to say that you can always use some skill that you have, even if you're not formally trained at something, to be able to generate money. And this goes back to that idea in the US of like a kid learning in the second grade, you know, how they can make money, you know? And so, yes, we have rainy days, a lot of rainy days. Those days come and I get frustrated, you know? Sometimes I'm like, why did I even start this, you know? And I mean, I tell a lot of people, like, if you're not in for the long term, this is a long-term game. This is not a bolada. You know, if you're in for this, for real, you want to build a business, a sustainable business, you got to think very long-term, my friend. You know, some of the greatest brands that we see today took 30, 40, 50 years to come to the level that they're in today. So what makes us think, and we're very privileged today because we have social media and all these mechanisms that allow us to grow very fast. Imagine like Ralph Lauren when he started, what he needed to do to communicate the message of his brand, you know, like in the 60s. But here I am, like, I'm all the way in the bottom of the African continent. And I built this brand in the 8 years. Like, on year 3, we were in Hollywood. You know, like, what are the odds for an African brand, you know, or for a brand, period? Even brands in the U.S. A lot of my friends in the U.S. like, you're in Hollywood, what the hell? What happened? You went to Africa, then you're in Hollywood? You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, what are you going? That also answers your questions. Like,
you did the Dave Chappelle route.
Why are you going back to Africa, right? When things are cool over here. Well, you know, I'm taking Africa there now. You know, so yeah, I mean, you just got to be prepared. But we grow much faster now. We grow much faster than, you know, some of the greatest brands had the opportunity to, you know, back in the 50s and the 60s, you know, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Essa tua maneira de pensar, obviamente, é graças ao background de educação que tu tiveste, França, States, tuas experiências todas acumuladas da tua vida. I'm sure your family também tem uma presença forte como tem na vida de todos, né? To shape us. E isso gerou and fed your hustle mentality, podemos assim dizer, não é? Para tu criares e, como tu disseste, não percebias nada de branding, mas isso não foi o motivo que te parou, e o dinheiro também, nem o know-how, nem o dinheiro, mas at some point, or did at any stage nesse teu journey, houve mentor que tu hoje podes olhar para trás e dizer que that guy or that woman teve uma influência muito grande na marca e em ti?
Yeah, bro, a lot. And I believe a lot in the spirit of community. You know what I mean? So people sometimes look at mentors as like a physical person that has to be with you or that you meet up with once a month or once every 6 months and, you know, you just put your ideas together and try to make sense, grapple with your ideas and trying to have some sort of experienced explanations to, you know, some of the troubles you're going through, right? And sometimes people also think that mentors have to be in the area of specialization, that you're in. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, I do fashion, so I need to have a fashion designer that's more experienced than I am to learn about fashion. But there's so many things in fashion. There's photography, there's videography, there's finances, there's journalism. I mean, there's so many careers that rise out of fashion. Now there's blogging. You have bloggers making a lot of money, from reporting fashion in a whole new way. So this is just to say that there's a lot of ways through which you can learn from people and have them as your mentors. So for me, a lot of it goes with like online mentorship. I watch a lot of videos of people that I truly admire. And through the people that I admire or the channels that I tune in on YouTube that, show people who are motivational, I learn about, other experienced or seasoned businessmen and so on and so forth. So if you want to ask who my mentors are, bro, Barack Obama, let's get it. You know what I mean? Like Damon John, throw a little bit of Gary V, is like a really nice motivator. Man, there's a lot of people that I watch online and I truly admire, and I usually watch them for a sustained period. People who are extremely successful at what they do, and I try to learn their process more than their success, what they did to get there. But now, along the way in my entrepreneurial journey, because I was a founder, because I was, and not by choice at the time, a CEO of a young company, I got to engage with a lot of other CEOs of larger companies, when we went for funding, when I was in networking events, networking cocktails. So I'll always try to like communicate a lot with them and just pick their brains and learn a lot from the way they present themselves, to the way they carry out their business affairs, to the way that they market product, And when I came to Mozambique and I was learning about fashion, I spoke to a lot of people also locally that I thought were more advanced than I was in the fashion industry. And I sat down with them to like just get some advice and, get a feel of or get a pulse of what the fashion industry looks like in Mozambique and outside of Mozambique and how people are surviving. What do they do? So I'm a very inquisitive and curious person. So I've sat down with Wasi. Wasi Zakaria, she's given me incredible, advice, very early stages of Xipixi. And then she also introduced me to Taibu. His brand was about 5 years old at the time, 5 to 6 years old at the time, and my brand was 0 years old, So for me, it was someone that was much more experienced in the fashion industry than I was locally. And he's also someone with that international outlook, really part of that wave of African artists and African entrepreneurs that are pushing the envelope, outwards. And, we can be here in this conversation and somehow I'll be getting some mentoring, on the questions that you're giving me, my reaction to these questions, on your approach to problems, through discussion. I get a lot of mentoring as well. And being very inquisitive helped me a lot, throughout the years. And obviously my dad is someone I really look up to. I have a lot of conversations with. For instance, when I started managing people for real, like for a mission and not just like being team lead somewhere at school or in church or whatever, had some troubles. Like it was a bit difficult for me and was like, this is different. I'm used to being the guy who does everything. Now I have to manage people, allocate tasks, monitor these tasks. And And so I asked my dad. My dad is a director at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And I'm like, how do you do it with your staff? And he'll give me some jewels, on that. You just, tell me the way he does things, how he manages it, and I'll learn. And so being very inquisitive helps a lot. And for me, at the end, because of that, in 8 years, of building a brand, I've met so many wonderful people, made great connections with CEOs, with different founders. I've gotten to travel, be with high-level officials and ask them hard questions. For instance, I'm a Mandela Rhodes Scholar. So what got me to Cape Town is because once I was very frustrated with my state of affairs in Mozambique, I started applying for scholarships. I applied for 12, and at the end, finally, I got one, which actually ended up being the most prestigious one of all. And there I also found other mentors. It's a scholarship in South Africa that was founded by Nelson Mandela with the idea of building exceptional leadership capacity in Africa, right? So they take this group of young people, they pay for their master's degrees or postgraduate studies, but they also train them through workshops and exchange ideas on how to be great leaders. So they bring also other leaders of Fortune 500 companies. I've had breakfast with Mo Ibrahim, one of Africa's first billionaires. And because I'm inquisitive, I've asked a lot of questions. I could consider that a mentor-mentee relationship, although it was for a breakfast, but I got so many gems from that conversation that I've gone back and applied. And that's the thing that I really appreciate about myself is when I learn something and I come across a situation where I can actually implement that thing. I'm like, oh, Mo Ibrahim told me that 5 years ago. This is how I should apply it right now. This is where this fits. You know what? Like Barack Obama expressed himself in a certain way in a difficult situation, right? And now I'm being asked a really tough question by my employees, and I need to give them a frank answer. How do I answer that? So yeah, so that's been my relationship with mentors. I can say that I've probably had, over 100 mentors and counting. But that also gave me the ability to later on become a mentor myself. So through the Mandela Rhodes Foundation, I've volunteered to be part of a mentorship program where the youngest scholars come in and talk to leaders in things that they're interested in and want to learn more. So we build this mentor-mentee relationship. And I've now mentored about 8 to 9 people within that program. But I believe life should be like that. We're part of a community. We learn a lot from each other. Listening to your podcast, for instance, I've learned so much from other people that have come over here, and for sure, there's some things that I will apply from what I've listened to in your podcast. And that's why I'm so interested in the podcast in the first place. I've watched the movie A Virgem Margarida, that was recommended by Nuno Soares. You know what I mean? I even tweeted about that. I was like, yo, Marcus was talking about all our movies are not available out there. I was like, yo, I just researched that real quick. Like, yo, there it goes on YouTube. It's 1 hour, 27 minutes. I guess it's the whole movie.
Marcus is an instigator. So.
And I watched it right there. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, I get to learn a lot from everyone I come across.
Tu falaste agora da Wasi, falaste do Taibo. When we look at you também, Xipixi, agora também the brand, porquê que parece, and I might be wrong, and I'm normally wrong about a lot of stuff, mas I might be wrong, mas parece que vocês têm mais influência e o vosso footprint é mais forte na África do Sul do que em Moçambique. And why is that? E no teu caso, por exemplo, começaste em 2012, tiveste Cape Town, se não estou em erro, no launch em Cape Town da marca, e só 4 anos depois é que o launch foi em Maputo. Why is that?
That's a fantastic question. So I did the launch 4 years later in Maputo because that's when I believed I was a brand. I believed Xipixi is a brand. I mean, I believe that now we have the full recipe, at least, to the best of our abilities at the moment, we had the recipe of a brand. Before that, I didn't believe we're a brand worthy of having a launch. I really believe in preparation. And we had done, by then, 2 Mercedes-Benz Fashion Weeks. We had done a show in the UK. We had done some pop-ups. But the very first place where the brand was launched was in Maputo. And I did that with the idea that things start here. Although I was based in South Africa at the time, in Cape Town, I had the idea that things come to Maputo first, then they move to the rest of the world. And even with collections, when they come out, that was my idea. And interestingly enough, we grew very fast in South Africa early on because, there's much more consumerism in South Africa than there is in Mozambique. But at a given point, Mozambique was actually our biggest market while being based in South Africa, And that's because most of our online marketing was targeted towards different places, different hotspots in Mozambique where we thought our target audience was. We rely a lot on data. Most of our decisions are informed by data. I'm always on Google Analytics, seeing who's checking our website, where they come from, what countries, what cities, the age range, what devices they're using, if it's an iPad, if it's another tablet, what operating system they're using, if it's, iOS, Microsoft, whatever, so we're really big on data. And that data now allows us to understand who are the people that we need to sell to. So we're very targeted about the things that we do. And that has, in turn, given us a lot of positive results because we can't be everywhere at the same time. And not everyone is going to love what we do. You know what I mean? And also, in terms of popularity, it was sort of equal, but because Moz is a smaller market, we became popular faster in Mozambique than in South Africa. While people were thinking that, these guys are much more popular in South Africa because we're doing all the fashion weeks or whatever. But if you think about it, that market is much bigger for you to reach than Mozambique is. Even on social media, here it's much more easier and much more cheaper to market online than it is in South Africa. And even worse now when you go to the US or Europe. And so that's, I think, a perception, which is fine. But in reality, the only reason why we did the launch in 2016 is because I thought that we were a consolidated brand by that time. And that was the only moment where I was safe enough that I felt safe enough that we could now, reach out to the masses and someone could go and try shorts and they wouldn't rip, right on the first try, So, and it takes a lot of testing. We put shows on the runway, but after that, we got to wear those clothes for a year, wash them for a year, see what happens to those clothes. It takes time. People want results now, but it takes time. And I'm also in the business of slow fashion. I'm not in fast fashion, your H&Ms, your Zara's, where they have a different collection every 2 weeks in the store. We take time to develop our product. And we take time to test it, see if it's viable or not, And sometimes people complain that, we've seen your show, but your stuff is not yet in stores. Bro, we're busy testing it. You know what I mean? We want to make sure it's right, And so that's the reason why it took some time for the launch to happen. And then after the launch in Maputo, then we did in Cape Town, then Joburg, and all the other markets was really online sales. And people going to South Africa and coming to Maputo, buying things from Xipixi, exporting them to Asia, Europe, and the US, and then having by word of mouth or just because our clothes really stand out, like people started getting inquisitive and asking about the brand. So we're all over social media. You ask Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, website. I mean, we're all over the place. So you just type Xipixi on Google, you'll find us. You know what I mean? So yeah, so online sales internationally started like that. And also with some friends of mine in France and New York, one of my friends bought it for a wedding in France, wore a bow tie and people loved it. And then they ordered it online. And so that's how we started selling internationally. And we've now been selling in 12 countries around the world. But now the thing is, this is an unusual story for a Mozambican. You know what I mean? And so there's this mystique that, wow, this brand, people are buying it overseas. So, and I don't see a lot of people wearing it here locally. So maybe it's popping more overseas. There's a lot of people wearing Xipixi here, but it's just a select group of people, you know? It's the target audience, you know? Like you go to a wedding here, you'll find one person wearing Xipixi, maybe, but you won't find 50 people wearing it, you know? And if you do find 50 people wearing it, is maybe because you're seeing 50 bow ties in the wedding. You know what I mean?
And sorry, is that a good thing for you? Or is that, so my question is like, having 50 people wearing your bow tie at the same place. So what I'm getting to is like, you get people that once they see someone else wearing something similar to they're wearing, they get put off by it. So 50 people wearing your bow tie at the same wedding, great thing. Of course, I would think so, right? Like, fantastic.
That business-wise. No?
Yes, of course, definitely.
We got to make sales, man.
Yeah, dude.
Trying to eat.
Exactly. You know, you one of the things that so what I'm getting to is that I think that the great thing about certain brands that I like, and you know, yours being one of them, that's Mozambican and so forth, also comes with a certain class, which is what I want as a consumer. You know, I want to wear things that won't rip tomorrow, like you're saying, take time in the testing and all of that. But it's also like, I feel that there are people that it's like there's nothing wrong with being niche, right?
Exclusive.
You know, being in your lane. And what I mean by being in your lane is not with a bad connotation. It's like auto-focused. You know, just because it's getting a lot of buzz doesn't mean that it's in stores tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
It's like we're gonna do it when we feel it's right, when we feel that we're happy, when we feel that this is right for the customer.
Yeah. We focus a lot.
And
on
for
that.
me, that's so important in anything, not just fashion.
For sure.
No matter what,
For sure.
in everything. It's so important. That attention to detail. You know, I work with a lot of brands, and like the one thing, and you were talking about mentors. Like I'm also blessed to have like amazing mentors in my life. You know, and the number one thing that I've learned is that to anything, you know, business, marriage, your kids, you know, your workers, you name it. It all starts with a foundation. It all starts with the values. So, like, and this is like going to my segue to my next question is like,
let's go. You should get a wow for the smooth segue.
You know, it's like, for me, values are so important, you know, and I'm not talking about, you get a lot of corporates in that write, you know, that have like 10 values, attributes, and it's like, nah, you know, like your workers, you know, they probably can only remember one. So for you, like, how do you see like the values in Xipixi? Like for you, like what do you feel that you guys express out? Not only, you know, I'm not talking about externally, because you got to start from home. You got to start with that foundation. So the people that you work with, the people that help you as well. What is, I would say, like your number one value that is like, the in other words, excuse my language, the don't fuck withs when it comes to like this brand?
Yeah. Don't fuck with my vibe. No. But more seriously, so first, the external value that we try to display with a lot of messaging, with the way we do our marketing, our ad campaigns, our visuals, our text, it's all about building greater gentlemen, externally. That's the value that we try to project as much as possible. That's our core message. Internally, it all starts, if you're going to ask me for one specifically, it all starts with respect, the moment we're able to all respect each other, and understand that we each have value as a team player, then we can remove that large curtain of bullshit that usually a lot of people have, when they bump into their coworkers or you have egos colliding, one thinks he's a superstar artist much more than the other one. There's a lot of bullshit, generally in the world, and for me, the most important thing is to put that respect forward. And I try to communicate that as much as possible, as consistently as possible, and as effectively as possible to all my collaborators. And I think once we're all clear off the bullshit, we can now work as a team and we can be happy, And then that's when, I start allocating tasks, giving creative direction, my vision, and then let people be creative and bring back suggestions, and we go back and forth, bounce back ideas, and then get to the production. And the guy making the shorts, okay, cut it this way, that way. And it becomes a happier environment when it's predicated and grounded on respect at the outset. You know what I mean? So if you're going to ask me about values, I think that's the number one. Yeah, that's the number one for me.
Amazing. So important. It's for me, that's no matter where you're going, whatever flight you want to take, but you've got to know that, the people that you work with, you've all got to be on the same page.
Yeah.
And you've all got to sort of like reset no matter what, like whatever job you're going to go into, whatever range that we're going to create, fashion show in your case or showcase, that everyone is sort of like grounded. And that's like so important when you work in a team, that everyone's got to be grounded, like feet on the ground and
feet on the ground. That's extremely important, bro. Especially when I started learning about the fashion industry as, one of the creators. Yeah. You have to be very grounded, or you can really get lost in the mix. You can get lost in the mix. There's really a lot going on, and also, when you start growing fast, when your brand grows fast, it gets a lot of attention. You get a lot of attention. You do a lot of interviews. You all over the place, on television, on radio. People are viewing you a certain way. It's like
you're in Hollywood.
Hollywood, you know what I mean? It's
you get that odd call, right?
Yeah, but it's very easy for people to get lost and get very superficial, and when you really get into the fashion life and you live that life for the moment, it's very fast, man. It's very fast. Like shows, models, naked back and forth, like after party this, celebrity that, whatever. Like then you go to some parties that look like Illuminati parties. Like it's very fast, you know. And then when you bring some of your collaborators to, you know, these events and these functions, like, and then they had the privilege to do that with you, but then another collaborator didn't, you know, we need to make sure that we're all on the same page so we can produce and be as efficient as possible and grow. So if you don't lay the groundwork for that respect to happen, then you're gonna have incidents where you're gonna have problems trying to manage people, manage egos. You know, you don't want to deal with that, especially as a creative. You know, you want your space to be positive. You want positive energies around you, and so you want to make sure you create that environment around you so that the people closest to you can also be productive and elevate and create greatness. So yeah, man, respect, man, is so important. It's so important, and people get it twisted in these industries. You know, someone is seemingly your friend today, tomorrow they're looking away. You know, and so for me, it's also been great lessons. You know, about where to channel my energies. And how to deal with a lot of those situations. And I mean, having the privilege of going through all these experiences now helps me take a step back, you know, when I'm out of that life. And I actually spend a lot of my time out of that life. I'm a family guy. I chill with my family mostly.
Yeah, I was about to say, like,
so
how are your kids?
Oh, they're good, man. They're good. Yeah. The little one, bro, he needs some carolhos sometimes, man. Aquele puto precisa de carolhos, man. Guys, hey,
but it's usually like that with boys.
Yeah, boys. Yeah, I love my kids to death, man. So for me, it also keeps me very grounded. You know, the fact that I have a family, I'm chilling with my family. You know, I have a core group of friends and I have good people that I have conversations with and chill. So I don't stay in that world for too long because it can get toxic. And then I can end up taking those energies and bringing it to my collaborators. And that's not good for us to elevate. We all have to be on the same level playing field to be able to push this thing forward, man. We're trying to innovate, you know, we're trying to poke some walls, you know? Yeah.
And how's this sort of period been? Like this we've mentioned it so many times. A lot of people have fatigue over it. So I'm going to call it the slow period in a way, especially this year. That is the year that is 2020. That will be marked forever in our lives. How's it been for you as a creative? Like something you mentioned already now was the fact that you always come up with amazing things during a crisis.
For sure, bro.
So, you know, we're kind of in a crisis right now.
And I got the biggest diabolic plan right now.
Where's that fire?
Yeah, man. No, you know.
I had to come back to that one.
No, that's fire, actually. Yeah, it's fire that you're asking about this. So initially, obviously, we're a little bit bummed, you know, with sales. But dude, again, you got to put some perspective in your life, man. There's people going through worse. We're alive, we're breathing.
Yeah.
You know, we get to work still. There's people losing
lucky we didn't have a lockdown here, too.
Yeah, we didn't have a lockdown, man. There's people really struggling right now, man. People losing loved ones. Somebody losing a husband, you know, a son, you know, this is happening. So first and foremost, we got to put some perspective and acknowledge that we're blessed. You know what I mean? So it is a crisis, but if you really still have your limbs, you know, your feet, your hands, you're able to breathe, you can eat, you know, you walk around, make most of it, you know? So my first thing is folks, be positive. Crises happen. In your lifetime, you're always going to go through crises. So this happens. Now, about how we're managing this as a brand, it actually gives us the time to refocus, re-strategize, replan, you know, and look at the next 10 years of Xipixi. You know, we're 8 years now, but now we're looking at the next 10 years of what we really want to do. How do we want to exist in this world? And how does year 18 look like in the journey of wanting to become the best menswear brand in the world. Yeah. You know what I mean? So because things are calmer, we're not getting too much demand for sales, so we don't have to stock up the stores as fast as we have to. We don't have to, make 1 million orders for weddings. We don't have, all that movement. They have to, try to figure out how to transport things from SA to Mozambique, from Mozambique back there to SA. Things are much more calmer. The borders are closed. Things are much more calmer. So they're giving us the opportunity to rethink, re-strategize, refocus, plan. And we've been able to identify some of our gaps and weaknesses at the moment that we realize that if we don't fix these, we won't be the best menswear brand in the world. You know what I mean? And it gave us time to study other brands, bigger brands, how they did it. What was the road to becoming a recognized international brand and have stores in different places around the world, have a flagship store in your main town? How does that work? And one of the things that I've understood is that, and that's a big problem with us, not only Mozambicans or Africans, but as consumers, we don't own our means of production a lot of the times, right? So at Xipixi, if we have to make 100 bow ties in 1 week, it's cool. We can make that happen. Now, if we have to make 10,000 bow ties in a week, then we can make that happen. We have to outsource services. We have to now start working with our CMTs to make sure that we deliver on time, take care of logistics, and so on and so forth. So this has actually given us the time to understand what our needs will be for us to be able to, make 10,000 bow ties in a week. You know what I mean? We have to build infrastructure. We have to hire people. We have to train people. We have to retain people. We have to learn how to manage a factory. So all of that is broken down into a 10-year plan that's broken down into yearly plans and then quarterly tasks that are measurable. You know what I mean? So the first task obviously will be do research, because we can't move around. And the research is mainly online. Learn about the great industrialists, how they did it, We're very fortunate that we're in a country that's very unexplored. You know what I mean?
The loopholes are like loopholes.
Yeah,
not
yeah.
Like loopholes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of loops.
Yeah. Huge. So we're studying all that. We're taking the time to actually study all that, and plan and write it down, and give ourselves deadlines to accomplish certain goals. And so that's been the exercise. It's been a very fun and exciting exercise because I get to discover so much more. I was stuck just doing the daily stuff that we didn't have time for reflection, to look back where we were, where we are, to be able to shape where we're going. You know what I mean? So that's a lot of what we've been doing lately.
I mean, Marcio only recently discovered your brand. And one of the things that he mentioned to me was that it's really refreshing because you're not using, even in your designs now that we see, and Tony's wearing some Xipixi pants right now, which are amazing. For example, the patterns that you're using are not the insight that Marcio said. They're not like the capulana that you see sort of day to day. Was that? Am I putting this right?
Yeah, não é jab a quem faz moda de capulana, because we love it, because it looks awesome. Mas temos todos que admitir que há muita gente a fazer capulana. Quando se fala em design moçambicano, em look mais nosso, a primeira coisa que nós pensamos é capulana. De certeza que para aqueles que fazem, deve ser extremamente mais difícil para poder stand out, não é? O que eu gostei muito quando vi your brand and I went through your Instagram, e para além da qualidade and attention to detail, e tu vês mesmo que there's a lot of dedication and hard work que vocês põem no que apresentam às pessoas, é que os padrões não são os padrões that we used to. É um padrão, pelo menos para mim, é um padrão que eu só vejo convosco. Não é um padrão comum, não é um padrão do como é que chama? Os casamentos, depois do casamento.
Xigian.
Não é um padrão de Xigian, estás a ver? Not again taking a jab at Xigian, not that. É só diferente.
It's observation.
E é muito
and I got something to say about this whole Xigian thing too. Bro, chill, you know, some people, relax, man. Yeah.
Então, e eu estava browsing on your YouTube channel and vi os ads, and your ads are just amazing. Let me just say
thanks,
that they're beautiful. And I wondered, and I asked Hugo about this: how much of what you make do you put back into the brand?
Financially,
yes.
Okay. All right. So let me start from the beginning. So first is the patterns, right? That we have. And we make, and then the whole Xigian question as well. So, I mean, obviously, we have to stand out. Like, you have to be unique. And you have to do it in such a way that a 1-year-old can understand the difference between your brand and everybody else, you know? And especially, and this is what I learned about luxury brands, you know, they have a message, they have a core story. But one thing that stands out, you know, and that's the oxymoron, is that they're unique, you know. Luxury brands are very unique. When you look at Louis Vuitton, you understand it's Louis Vuitton, you know. When you look at Burberry, you know, the monogram, you understand it's Burberry. You know what I mean? It's very easy to spot whether it's the logo, if it's a monogram, a certain pattern that they create. So I studied that a lot when I decided that we were going to turn Xipixi into a luxury brand, you know. And so that was very important to do our research and also to design some of the patterns. A lot of them, we buy them already made, but from, you know, like very exclusive suppliers, and hence sometimes the price, you know. But it has to do with a lot of factors. And sometimes we design them ourselves and put them out. But the important thing is that you're consistent in a way that even a 1-year-old can understand the difference. So my son, right, my youngest son, so I have 2 kids. I have Kikiana, who's 6 years old, and Kiani, who's about to turn 2 in October. And both my kids, so Kiki was probably at 2 years old. But both my kids know the brand and understood it at a very, very early stage. Kiani understood the brand properly probably about 2 months ago. So it was like 1 and 8 months or so. And he saw the logo. I was wearing one of the polos. And by the way, a common perception is that we only do things based in Capulana, but we use all sorts of fabrics. We make fine wool suits, you know, tuxedos. We make gentleman essentials. We have caps, you know, with our logo on. I mean, we have polos, we have T-shirts. I mean, we're a full-on menswear brand with all the gentleman essentials. Aside from, like, we're not yet doing bags and watches and eyewear. We're not yet doing that. But we're, you know, we use all sorts of fabrics in making gentleman essentials. But going back to my kid, so he saw the logo on the polo, he touched it, you know, and went around it. And it's, like, very unique, the X, like you can tell. And I was like, Xipixi. Kiani Xipixi. It was like Xipixi, you know? And this other day, I was wearing like a Xipixi shirt with a lot of patterns on it. I was like, Yan Xipixi, right? And third day, he looks at my pants, he touches them, he's like, Xipixi. You know what I mean? Like he got it, you know? We were like just watching one of the commercials that we shot and haven't put out yet. And he saw the logo pop in. I was like, Xipixi. You know, he sees the bag. He's like, Xipixi. Kid doesn't know how to read. He looks at the bag, the branding on the bag is like Xipixi. Looks at the bow tie boxes. He points at that. Now, mind you, I hadn't told him about the letters, right? But he looks at the box. He recognizes that that X is very similar to the one on the logo. It's like Xipixi. So I think you've done pretty well if a 1-year-old is able to sort of differentiate between you and another brand, right? And we've been blessed to be able to do that. I've been blessed to be able to learn that, and blessed to be able to do that. And thanks for saying that it does stand out. It's for us. It's great feedback. It's great data. It's a reaffirmation that, okay, I think we're doing something right. You know what I mean? Yeah. So now about how much money do we put back into the brand? That's a wonderful question. So I have to be very honest. It fluctuates, you know? Bro, there were times when I was broke. You know what I mean? I was like, damn, there's all this money from the brand. Like, I don't want to splurge, but like I gotta pay some bills, you know? And I get other incomes from other things I do, which I then flip them and put them into the brand to create more, and that's how I've been financing my brand actually. But like there are times when like your bank account, your personal bank account is on E, and like I take some from the brand and use it for something, and I pretend I'm paying myself. You know what I mean? Just to not feel so bad, you know? But in general, I would say that I'll put back about 70 to 80% of the funds and let that work, you know? And for me, it's so nice when you've then built a system, right? Build a sustainable business whereby the stuff is in different stores. You have control with support of your collaborators, obviously control over the stock. You know what's going on in the store. And then at the end of the month, like you get the invoices, you get paid, and then you amass that amount and make sure to reinvest in the stores that are giving you the money. You know what I mean? And I mean, that taught me also a lot about finances. Because, for instance, in Southern Africa, we're retailing in about 7 stores. So, and we don't have our own stores, by the way. We retail through other stores. For us, we save a lot, you know, on rent, on so many other costs.
Yeah.
Too many fixed costs. Like, I hate fixed costs, you know. Like, I hate that. So I try to, like, cut them as much as possible so we can actually make money and grow. But the thing I was about to say about the stores is that, let's say I give a store 100 bow ties, right? And I give another store 100, 2 stores, 100 each. One store sells 10 bow ties, right? And the other one sells 90 bow ties. Well, obviously, I'm going to invest much more in the one that sold 90 bow ties to be able to reposition those bow ties, right, to make more money. And then we get the data that, oh, maybe because it was Father's Day in that region, you know, a lot of people bought bow ties. You know, we try to understand why, you know, we got so many sales. But we reinvest where we're getting more. Like, if you're not selling anything, like, we're not reinvesting back in you. You know, so it also gives the store owners some homework to do. Like, it's like you also got to collaborate, right? We're very, very visible. We try to do our marketing as well and stuff and direct people to the stores. We do our job. We do our part. We invest in that. Invest heavily on marketing, you know. I'd rather be investing on marketing than on renting a space. You know what I mean? For me, it brings...
I mean, sorry to cut you off,
No, go ahead.
but before I forget a lot of things. Sorry, but you touched something on there, and Robbie Brosen, who's the co-founder of Nando's, he always says like when they started out in 1987 and they're going to 1990, and Robbie's one of my mentors as well, and he was saying that they again, like you're saying now, broke has kids, and South Africa in those times, apartheid and like getting to the end of apartheid and, going through this whole transition, and so forth. Again, crisis, I mean, you name it, right? But one thing that they did is like sticking to their guns, and marketing played the biggest role in everything. Yes, the content, meaning the product, was fantastic, and that has to be fantastic,
Of course,
that is no question, right? But the marketing was so important, so much that like you get a lot of finance guys that would join the team and all of that, and they'll be like, you guys are spending so much on marketing and so forth and things like that.
Yeah.
But marketing brings the bread,
It does.
and
People don't realize that.
Yeah.
It does.
It does.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've learned from him is that like clever marketing, you don't have to do like, the thing about marketing is that like it's also like a world of its own. Like what I love about marketing is that like it's a great mixture between tradition and exploration.
Mhm.
So what I mean by that is that like
Sure.
there are the things that like you've got to have in your communication.
Yeah.
That you
That's
gave the example of your
traditional,
kids
Yeah.
understanding your brand, by the X or
Yeah.
by certain characteristics, and they
Yeah.
got it. There's got to be certain things that are like
When I walked out the house, my son was like, Xipixi. Like, it was-
exactly. But then what's exciting about it is that there's this room for exploration, meaning that like you can do anything. The
Yeah.
consumer is like
Yeah, for
constantly
sure.
being fed like, multiple things like again and again, day after day, hour after hour, minute after minute, from 8 o'clock watching Netflix to, 11 o'clock, you're on your phone looking at, whatever it is, messages. You're being fed with things.
Mhm.
And, marketing in whatever ways it comes, it's so important. It's so important for more and more the entrepreneurs to start thinking about how they're going to in what ways communicate.
Mhm.
And what I mean by communicate is that like you can do anything, right? If a certain channel works for you and that channel works for you, then great. That's working for you. You don't have to be a brand that like, I'm gonna open a Facebook, a Twitter, a Pinterest, a TikTok, all of these different things.
Damn, we don't got no
because everyone-
TikTok. Just thought of that. No, we're not doing TikTok.
But my point being is that like you've got to be very clever in your selection and like where the audience you want to reach and is sort of living, because that's the whole point, right? You want to make sure you've got your loyal guys, engaging with them, but you also want to get new people in the club, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So
Yeah.
you've got to juggle
Sure.
with that, because I've worked in companies and working with people that, they look at the marketers like, here's the marketers, or like, this is the marketing budget. Like, what? Oh, come on, guys. Like, like there's all these things, but cleverly
important.
done
So
is
important.
it can really put your brand on the map. And it's something so important. And I've
That's what
seen that
put us on the map.
you guys
That's what
do
put us
it
on the map.
really
It's-
well.
it's
Yeah.
marketing.
Yeah.
And taking it a step forward is marketing, but you also, from a business standpoint, now have to analyze the conversion rate. Like, say I invest 100 meticais in marketing, right? And online marketing is easy to quantify.
Yes. Yeah.
So I invest 100 on marketing. With that 100, I got, let's say, 1,000 likes, right? And I got about 25 comments, which shows engagement. And I engage with that crowd, as a brand. And with that 100, I also got sales within that time frame, or just a little after, in that region, very specific region where I marketed the product, of about 20,000 meticais. You know what I mean? And that's happened. I've literally deployed, like, that was in rands. So I've deployed like 50 rands in marketing and made about 35,000 rands within that period.
On social.
Through social. Yeah. Targeted marketing. Like, people really have to explore Facebook, Instagram. There's a lot that you can do. Yeah, there's a lot that you can
Google
do.
AdWords.
Google AdWords, you name it, you know. And again, other mentors, friends that I was with that schooled me on that, you know. In 2012, I knew nothing of that. You know what I mean? Watching videos and so on. So part of marketing is huge, huge. And then over time, it becomes organic, because then you have people who just love your brand, rocked it. They sing about it in the song. And then, you know, all the kids are loving
Turn
it.
up.
You know, yeah. That was the case, for instance, with Ian Blanco. Shout outs to Ian.
Shout out.
Like, he, from Same Blood, you know, he had a song with Lay Leezy, Hot Blaze, Full Flow, right? And, you know, he had a line where he says, sai de casa full Xipixi, mas meu Xipixi não é de gato, you know?
Yeah.
Bro,
Yeah.
the kids went berserk during that period, man.
But it's funny that you were
know?
talking about, like, that you listen to Jay-Z's and Nas and all of that,
Yeah.
because that's what they did too. Like, they rapped about, like, brands that they liked.
That they
You
like,
know?
exactly. Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like that full circle.
Full
is that,
circle.
like, you creating
Yeah.
a brand that a lot of the youngsters today that are rapping about.
Yeah, so he rapped about it, you know, and I mean, I didn't ask for a shout out or anything. I mean, it was kind enough to do it, you know what I'm saying? And the effect was crazy, but it was very organic, because the brand spoke to him. He liked the brand, you know, and at the time, I think it was a bit aspirational. But we collaborated right after that. When I heard the song and how crazy it went, I was like, dude. And I mean, I've known Ian for quite some time, you know, as friends with my sister. But I was like, it was unexpected, you know. Then I started collaborating with the dude, you know. And like, again, it comes back to the idea of being a community, right? And then we dressed him, you know, for the video. Now he was saying Xipixi, rocking Xipixi. You know, I was wearing one of our robes, you know, and he had his dog wearing one of the bow ties, matching the robe. You know, rappers extravagant, marble floors, you know. You know, from the mud to marble floors, you know, like, yeah. So, yeah, man, and that's the beauty of it. You know, if you work hard enough at marketing your product to the right people, somehow your brand is going to resonate with some people that happen to be influential and speak about it and really broaden your reach, you know? And that's what's happened also very organically for the brand. And another thing about the Shigian that I wanted to speak on. So
Invented by himself, right?
no.
I had a little note.
You had on the side, it's like, this guy's not going to leave before addressing this thing. Yeah, so yeah, man, about the Shigian. And luckily this started when I was already doing collections, and you know, we were already, in our minds at least, a luxury brand. And I mean, we're still working towards that very aspirational, you know, goal. That, you know, orders started coming for Shigian. So someone's like, yo, we really like your brand. Like, you know, would like to give you 50 capulanas so you can make us some clothes. And at the time, obviously, I was so focused in the mission, right? And as a brand, we were so focused in building this brand that we were confident about who we were. We had an identity, right? And we couldn't compromise with that identity. So we've gotten people numerous times sending us like sending us messages wanting that to happen. And our decision was, we're sorry, but we can't do it. You know, if you want something, it's, look at the range that we have of designs, and we can give you some options of colors and fabrics, and then you can pick from that, and then we can make 50 units for you of whatever it is that you want. We're fine with that, but getting 50 capulanas from you is like, that doesn't work for us, right? And so that was the answer. It's pissed off a lot of people, but over time, people learn to respect that. And I've had a conversation with someone that's like, really, have you gone to Nike with your own colorful leather and be like, Nike, please make me a shoe? You know what I mean? It's like, as a brand for us, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, totally understandable, because it wouldn't be Xipixi.
Exactly. It wouldn't have the identity.
Yeah.
I can't put my label, I can't put my tags, my logo on that. It just wouldn't be Xipixi.
Yeah.
Good thing is, over time, I've also, through the work I was doing and I've been doing in fashion, I was able to meet with other Mozambican designers. And so as I met them and I understood what they did, when people came to me for that, Shigian or whatever, I was like, look, I'm not talented at that, but I know a cat who's really good at doing that.
Yeah.
So contact this dude, who'll hook you up, like you'll do it very well, because that's what some of the brands here, not all brands, but are very good at. It's just not us.
It's like in a lot of more developed countries, that's what happens. Like, everyone knows each other. When you're in an industry, no matter what industry it is, like, there are associations and there are like networking dinners and parties and, meetings and all of that. And everyone knows each other. So you kind of know that, like, that person is a specialist. Okay, in our industry, that person or that company is a specialist in so and so. That one is more of like that and so forth, right? But they all work together, and what ends up happening, everybody wins. Everybody wins, the industry grows, and everyone makes money. Everyone grows, which is one of the things that I really feel is like missing in our society. That, like, I don't know, maybe it's gonna grow, maybe it's gonna change and all of that, but we still have this mentality of like fechado and like, the more and more, like, you're getting people doing more collaborations, which is great, which is fantastic. But I think that, like, we've got to share more. Like, we've got to connect more. We've got to take more risks, man. We've got to, try things out. Yeah, it might not work out. You don't succeed at everything, but it's a learning experience. It's a learning curve, and we move on. We go to the next thing, and that's what I admire so much. Like, I have the privilege of traveling the world. Well, not right now during COVID. But I'm taking this year to do some soul searching and record with this man right here. But you kind of take. I admire so much of, like, a lot of cultures, and you're talking about, like, US, where a good part of your life you spent there. I spent a good time of my life in the UK and growing up there. But what I admire about these places is that, like, bringing it back to where we started in our conversation today about entrepreneur, is that, it's a lot of entrepreneurs start very young, and what is amazing about those societies is that, like, you're allowed to fail. Failing is actually great.
Fantastic.
It's fantastic because failing prepares you for the next chapter in your journey. The next what comes next, right? And what's great is that, like, whatever comes next, that, all right, I'm not gonna do that mistake again that I did, or, like, I'm gonna watch out for this, or, like, that person was not trustworthy, or whatever it is. And I feel that, like, here we've got to, especially us, like our generation, we've got to encourage each other to do that, to encourage each other through, whether if it's a friend or whatever, I've got this idea or whatever. Dude, keep going. We've been blessed also with this podcast. A lot of people going like, hey, keep going, guys. Like, we're loving it. Keep going. And that's also driving us. And we love that. And we do the same for other friends as well. We do the same for some other friends that are wanting to start podcasts and whatever projects they wanted to start. I feel it's so important for us to keep sort of becoming like fans of our own stuff, like supporting our own things. Keep on like being the cheerleaders of, our own stuff, right? Friends that we know that are starting something. If that person's losing momentum, call them out and be like, hey, dude, we had that conversation. What's happening?
Let's go. Yeah,
let's go. I've been waiting for it. You hype me up and like, let's go. I feel that that's so important. That starts with us because, who's gonna be next to run this joint? It's gonna be us. It's gonna be, it's gonna be our generation, and we've got to come with that mentality so that we can grow. We can grow these industries, whether if it's music, fashion, arts,
even politics.
Politics.
Yeah.
You name it, construction, retail, whatever it is, like it's gonna be us. So we've got to start this more camaraderie. We've got to start, working together instead of just shutting ourselves down and being in our own secretive bubbles.
Yeah. No, it's important. It's very important. This whole idea and sense of community. For me, I do it very consciously. You know what I mean? Some people do it unconsciously. I do it very consciously. Like, I listen to this podcast because I feel that you guys have like a wide plethora of guests who have interesting things to say, in a very random way. Like, you go from like interviewing a chef to like fashion designer to like a pilot, So like the range is very wide. And then you have the most random conversations where you get to pick their brains and they pick yours. And through that, a lot of information comes out. You know what I mean? And it's, for me, like it's a great tool. Like, we're sharing information. Like, I learned about a great movie that now I share to another 20 people, and probably another 600 people maybe, because I shared it on Twitter. Not everyone goes and likes and retweets, but they're seeing it. You have a couple people who are seeing it, and they might have gone and watched that movie, and they might have now created more buzz for that movie. And maybe through that, it might be recognized at another festival because more people watched it. You know what I mean? So, like, it's all interlinked at the end of the day. It's all interlinked. And that's what I was saying. Do not take this podcast lightly. Like, not even putting pressure or anything, but you guys are doing a great service to this country and the world through this podcast with, like, this sharing of information very openly in a very relaxed environment. I mean, y'all can't see this, but the whiskey up in here is on and popping, bro. It's going down in here, man. You don't know what's going on. Eh?
Yeah, on some Perry whiskey. And Tony, like, share your links. Like, where can people find you online? I know that you've also got a website, and I'm very some episodes on this platform where I'm like, gotta have our own platform. So important, more important than ever now, especially that certain applications are getting shut down in certain countries. But that's another story.
Certain people are getting shut down from applications. You saw that thing by Lil Boosie Badass that I sent you, right? So this guy, we're like this rapper, right? You know that guy, Lil Boosie? He was Lil Boosie, now he's Boosie Badass. From New Orleans, that had that song Wipe Me Down, whatever. So yeah, who cares? But so this guy literally, like, now he's living off of, because he's very vocal about a lot of issues. So people follow him a lot. He has a lot of listeners, right? On social media, everyone on YouTube. He does a lot of Vlad TV interviews. So people like actually listen to him. and a lot of people follow him, you know? So, you know how, like, there's censorship on Instagram? Like, so I think he was in a video with a girl that showed certain parts of her body. I don't know which parts or whatever, but something popped up where Zuckerberg was like, yo, we're not having that, you know? We're not having that. So they shut down his Instagram account. You know what I mean? So, like, all those millions of followers gone. And mind you, this guy, because of the pandemic, is making money off of Instagram.
Yeah, I'm sure he's getting like sponsored posts.
Sponsored posts and things like that. So they're giving him hundreds of thousands of dollars for him to post on Instagram. So, like, just like income stream gone, zero. And so this guy made a video, was like, yo, come on, Zuckerberg, man. Help me out, man. Just, do what you want. Bring my account back, Zuckerberg, man. I can't make my millions no more. You know, it's like, this is real. Like, you can have, like, 10 million followers today, right? Cristiano Ronaldo is probably one of the most followed people.
Yeah.
So 200 million plus. Like, I mean, he doesn't need that because he's
he
whatever.
can create his own app.
Yeah. But I'm saying the people who live off that, you know, in their lives, you have 10 million followers and you make money off of that. Zuckerberg decides he shuts you down for whatever reason. Like,
yeah, hence the importance of having your own website, having your
exactly.
own
That's why I'm with you. I'm with you.
It's so important. So you're on Instagram. Is it at your personal? You have your personal and also
Yeah. So my personal is Tony_Xipixi for Instagram and all my social media pretty much. Actually, it's the same. Tony, Twitter, Facebook, whatever. And for the brand, it's Xipixi Official for all social media. Official together, written in English, 2 Fs. And then the website is Xipixi-official.com. So, I mean, we just revamped the website. So we have a brand new website. You have a lot of our content there. You can explore through it. And then, I mean, if you just type Xipixi on Google, like, AdWords, you know, like, you'll find a lot of stuff. Go on images, it will direct you to, you know, something else. So you can contact us through that.
I mean, Marcio in 5 minutes found all your stuff. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Works.
It works.
Yeah. No, definitely. We work hard to make that happen. Yeah. And it's great to get this feedback. Again, it's data for us that, okay, you know, the way we're doing our marketing, our tags, the keywords that we're putting out, you know, it all comes full circle with, you know, the SEO, you know. People are finding our stuff, you know.
Sure. Yeah, and that takes a lot of work. Yeah.
And that's one argument that Marcio has been making on a lot of the podcasts is like, y'all artists are snobs, you know, like we can't find your stuff, you know what I mean? And so we made sure very early on to like
I keep saying it again and again. It's like you gotta have your own platforms. You can't rely on the Instas and the TikToks and all of that. Look, it's fun, it's fantastic and all of that, but you gotta have your own stuff, man. Like I admire so much, like for example, like South African hip hop artist, AKA, started his own app.
Yeah.
You know, he's probably like one of the like artists that like people troll him a lot and like this and that, think he's arrogant or whatever.
Yeah.
But hey, he's got his own app. Tomorrow Zuckerberg decides to whatever, he's still got and
you can communicate with
he's got his
people.
Subscribers that pay. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's 40 rands or 50 rands per month or whatever the price is.
Yeah. And he's a scalable business because he has a lot of people listening to him.
Exactly. So, you know, if there's any music artists listening to this or, you know, anyone out there, I suggest to looking at, I mean, you know, we are as well. Like, it's important to have your own platforms. It's important to make sure, like you said, Tony, on this episode, data.
Yeah, data.
Make sure that you, from day one, you are gathering that data because, you know, data is the new oil. Just
It
like
is.
Nuno
It's oil.
Suarez said.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
no, it's
really
the new
is.
oil. There's that thing also. Now that we're talking about Google search and whatever, it reminded me of the question you had on the bow tie. You having 50 people wearing the bow ties. You know what I found out recently searching for Xipixi data, because every week I go and like put Xipixi on Google, check all the images if there's anything new, a new buyer who posted something or whatever. Check all the hashtags if there's new stuff coming out. And about 5 to 6 months ago, I found out there's this guy that bought Xipixi bow ties in 2015 from like a collection that's no longer available. And he's reselling them in 2020 at a higher price on some limited edition. Like, you can't get these anywhere. I'm like, what's going on here? Yeah, I was kind of creeped out by that.
That's when you know you made it.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, what's going on here? And this guy's like flipping it for like 5 times the price. I even shared that on Facebook. Yeah, it's like, yeah. And I was like, he's right, because I myself can't even find that pattern anymore. It's gone. It's from Mali. It's very rare.
That's when you know you made it, because now
yeah.
you got memorabilia, just like the Jordan jerseys.
Yeah.
Baseball cards.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's it right there.
Yeah.
Tony, Macheve,
Man,
thank you so
thanks.
much, my
All
brother.
love, guys, man. Thanks.
Obrigado por teres feito o tempinho para vir bater papo connosco.
Yeah,
I'm sure you
my
inspired
pleasure.
a lot of people. You sure did to us.
Yeah, I
Thanks
mean,
for having me,
freaking
man.
amazing.
Yeah.
We need to have you back.
Yeah,
There's
for
so
sure.
much. There's just so much, man.
Yeah,
There's just so
man.
much.
It's endless.
But we look forward to seeing what you guys come up with next, especially with the Xipixi brand that we're very big fans of. I'm gonna go rock this bow tie as I walk into the dinner table at my home.
Let's go. Stunt on them.
And yeah, like
Make sure they recognize HC has arrived.
For sure. And for those of you listening, Kubhula.com is now available. You can go on Kubhula.com, listen to this episode, listen to right now. Tell your friends and family about it. And
Let's go.
And we out.
We out.